Imagine an anti-gun law that is so effective and sneaky that it's going to hit most gun owners, but moreover, it actually will psychologically move the goalposts on what's reasonable about purchasing and owning ammunition. That's what we're getting into here today with HR 7166, a law that could be coming from DC. It's proposed right now that would all but ban online direct-to-consumer sales. Guys, let's get into it. I want you to imagine telling a single mom in a rough neighborhood that the government is going to make it harder and more expensive for her to buy the ammunition that she needs to defend her kids to train with. Not because she did anything wrong, she's got a spotless record, but because politicians on the other side of the country think her rights are, well, too convenient and inexpensive. That's exactly what the so-called, quote, Stop Online Ammunition Sales Act, end quote, otherwise known as HR 7166, is designed to do. It doesn't disarm criminals, doesn't punish criminals. It creates criminals, and it disarms the poor, the rural, the disabled, and people who actually are trying to follow the law. House Democrats have reintroduced HR 7166 to effectively end direct-to-consumer online ammunition sales nationwide by forcing face-to-face ID verification for internet purchases. Insert all of my Republican friends wishing they did the same for voter ID. That means no more having ammunition delivered to your door. That means no more using the competitive online marketplace to find affordable prices. And that means no more practical access for people whose lives don't fit neatly inside a politician's idea of business hours. Supporters call this, of course, common sense gun safety. In reality, it's unconstitutional, it's unethical, and it does nothing to fight crime. But it absolutely will price poor people out of their Second Amendment rights. So here's what HR 7166 is built to do in the real world. First, it requires face-to-face purchases of ammunition, meaning that if you buy ammo online, you still have to show up in person somewhere so a dealer can check your ID in the physical presence of the buyer. Right. That kills the core benefit of online sales: convenience, competition, and direct access. Imagine living in a rural area where your nearest gun store could be hours away. Second, it adds new federal licensing requirements for ammunition dealers, layering more regulation and cost onto the people who provide lawful ammo to the public. Third, it imposes a bulk purchase reporting mandate. If you buy more than 1,000 rounds in 5 consecutive business days, that gets reported to the U.S. Attorney General and to the state or local law enforcement. Every competition shooter, just right there. None of this is targeting criminals. I'm an ex-state criminal prosecutor. I'm a criminal defense attorney. The actual criminals, like the real bad guys that you're thinking about when I say, think of a home invasion, think of a robbery, think of that guy, okay? That guy isn't buying thousands of rounds of ammo online, okay? They're not. They're buying loosies. They're buying singles, 1, 2, 5, 10 at a time. That's how they buy their ammo. Trust me, experience. That's why none of this is targeted at criminals. Criminals aren't ordering pallets of ammunition in their real name, shipped to their real home address through their real credit card or checking account. What world are these politicians living in? This bill is aimed at the only group that actually uses the legal online marketplace. You and me, law-abiding gun owners, competitors, hunters, and people who train. If you're wealthy, a law that bans direct online ammo sales, it's really annoying. It's really annoying. Just like it's really annoying when your Amazon Prime delivery, it's promised to get there next day, takes 2 days, right? Isn't that kind of a drag? You were looking forward to it, didn't happen, right? But if you're poor, rural, disabled, you're working 2 jobs, it's a barrier that can effectively end your practical ability to exercise a constitutional right. Rural residents often live an hour or more from the nearest store that actually has consistent ammunition inventory. Not to mention, you are 100% now dependent on that inventory in many, many respects. For those folks, online sales, It's not a luxury. It's only a realistic way to get what they need. Working parents, especially those in service jobs or hourly positions, cannot just take off of work in the middle of the day so that they can go drive across town and hope the local shop has their caliber in stock or to show an ID to someone. Seniors and disabled Americans may rely on home delivery because driving across town, navigating parking, standing in line, and then carrying heavy ammunition blocks, it's painful and maybe physically impossible. Competitive shooters, rangers, and hunters often need specific loads and quantities that small local stores simply don't stock or carry. The political talking point is, well, it's just an ID check. The reality is this: when you take away the ability to buy ammunition online and require in-person verification every time, you are deliberately, knowingly, and intentionally increasing the costs in time, travel, and money. And those costs land hardest on the people with the least margin in their life. This is the form of economic discrimination dressed up as public safety. The wealthy urban professional can absorb it. The single dad in a rural county who drives 45 minutes for a night shift, he can't. Now, we got to talk about this bulk purchase reporting rule. The more than 1,000 rounds within 5 business days triggers a report to the Attorney General and local law enforcement is absurd. To anyone who doesn't actually train, 1,000 rounds, I get it, that sounds like a scary number. To anyone who takes self-defense or competitive shooting or even hunting seriously, that's an ordinary ammo buy. A single weekend carbine class or pistol class can easily consume 500, 1,000, or sometimes far more rounds, depending upon who you're shooting with. Families who train together can double, triple, quadruple that or more. Competitive shooters can burn through thousands of rounds in a season. Many buy when prices dip so that they can afford to keep their skills sharp and to keep themselves at the range. And these and many, many other folks are the folks that exactly get hammered by this. And keep in mind, there's been in the past too, there have been times where anti-gun politicians have tried to create things like ammunition hoard laws, okay? Where if you have more than 500 rounds of ammunition in your house, that's now a massive stash or a hoard, and they need you to register. I've encountered laws like this. Maybe you haven't. If you want me to go into this kind of stuff more, let me know in the comment section down below. I can do some research and illuminate everyone. But otherwise, the government is not identifying criminals with this law. It is training law enforcement to treat normal, responsible gun ownership as suspicious. It is piece by piece constructing a de facto registry of lawful ammunition purchases under the guise of common sense reporting. That does nothing to stop the carjacker with a stolen handgun, the gang member with a trunk full of loosies that he's been buying and putting together for a couple days or weeks, or the prohibited person who already lied on the background check. Those individuals, they're not the ones ordering cases and cases and having it shipped to their doors in their own names. There's a deeper problem here. You see, a right is meaningless if you are not allowed to exercise it. And fundamentally, if you really think about it, basically all rights, with one exception, but basically all rights are property rights. What do I mean? Second Amendment, right to be armed. Okay, you're talking about your property rights to possess certain property, to purchase certain property, to use certain property, to transport and carry certain property. That's not the only thing you're talking about, but certainly everything is conditioned on that. We can talk about stand your ground all you want, but if you're not allowed to purchase and carry a handgun, does it really matter at that point? Or does it at least matter as much? Your First Amendment rights, okay. Well, your right to free speech, wonderful. On what phone? On what computer? On what book? On what liberty pole is that right going to be exercised at? Your right to religious freedom, wonderful. Where? Using what books? Using what texts? You see, a huge portion of all these rights come back to property rights, which is the reason why property rights are so incredibly important, because they underpin truly all of Western society. And that's part of the reason why courts have recognized that restrictions on ammunition sales can burden the core constitutional right of the Second Amendment, because purchasing ammunition for lawful use is covered by the same protection that covers the firearm itself. Now, under the Supreme Court's 2022 Bruen framework, that's B-R-U-E-N, for those of you who just might be listening, that was the name of the case, B-R-U-E-N, modern gun regulations must be consistent with America's historical tradition of firearm regulation. There is no tradition in this country of banning remote ammunition sales or requiring face-to-face identity checks for every non-local purchase. And trust me, you've been able to buy ammunition and components for ammunition remotely going all the way back. In fact, ammunition and firearms were widely sold through catalogs and mail order long before the internet existed. And even before the Gun Control Act of 1968, restrictive as it was aimed at mail-order firearms, not a blanket ban on ammunition commerce. So I don't think that the legal challenges will really have much of a heavy lift here. But again, all that is just taxing fantastic groups like Gun Owners of America and others who are the ones who are going to be on the front lines burning your donations in order to fight these government laws. Well, this operates on many different levels. It's pretty seditious in a sense that it's attacking our Constitution because it's creating a false narrative that there's no real reason why anyone needs 1,000 or more rounds at once. See how it starts to introduce that notion? It obviously creates massive burdens that disproportionately hurt certain classes of Americans, depending upon their economic status, where they live, their disability status, you name it. It's just nakedly unconstitutional, but the anti-gun politicians don't seem to care. Or is it worse that they don't even understand that? Let me know down in the comment section below which one you think it is and which one you think is worse, or if there's a third thing that you would add to this, or a fourth or fifth. Keep going. Let me know down in the comment section below. We're going to close with our ever popular quote of the day. This one's a longer one. It comes from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "The great body of our citizens shoot less as time goes on. We should encourage rifle practice among schoolboys, and indeed among all classes, as well as in the military services by every means in our power. Thus, and not otherwise, may we be able to assist in preserving peace in the world. The first step in the direction of preparation to avert war if possible, and to be fit for war if it should come, is to teach men to shoot." And I would also add to that, girls and women as well. I appreciate you sticking around. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video. I look forward to reading your thoughts and comments in the comment field below. Take care. Thanks for joining us on that video. And if you liked that one, then I think you're gonna like these over here too.